Welcome to Rants Without Pants, which you can watch on shophead.blogspot.com. This is Adam Shabo. You may know me from the Madison, Milwaukee power pop band The Shabelles, or Labyrinth David Bowie, who played at freaking Hollow Weekend. Today we have something special. We have a panel discussion set from every angle, politically, as well as a couple experts. This panel certainly will be an intelligent, respectful, what do you think, Dusty?
I think you nailed it with intelligent. I mean, right off the bat. What else do you want?
Thought-provoking discussion, or it could be...
It'll be provoking. It'll be provoking.
Or an utter train wreck, right? One of the two. But first, let's start by introducing everyone. Let's start with Dusty.
My name's Dustin Weis. Most people call me Dusty. I'm a former CBS Radio News reporter and contributor for WTDY Radio in Madison and WIOD Radio in Miami.
Hi, my name is Stacy Harbaugh, and my day job is being the communications director for the American Civil Liberties Union of Wisconsin. Otherwise, I'm a tweeter, a knitter, and cat lover.
Grover, Michael. Besides being my old boss.
Well, as Adam said, I am his old boss, which wasn't his experience at the time. Currently work in northern Wisconsin. I would describe myself as non-ideological in terms of do not believe in Democratic Party's platform all the way. I don't believe in Republican. I find myself in this weird position where hated by everyone.
That you're hated by everyone? Okay, and then BJ.
Hi, I'm BJ Buss. I'm basically on this panel because of a friend of Adam's. I don't know, actually for quite a few years now, Adam, believe it or not. But basically because of our rants between each other on Facebook. I'm basically a compassionate conservative. I'm going to leave Reagan out of this because everybody would have to drink. But I don't want to get drunk. So
Okay, so BJ, first question, man. This is going to go on for a while because it's a little bit of a tirade for me. All right. The Rasmussen reports that Romney's jobs plan numbers don't compute. Ex-Reagan advisor Bruce Bartlett stated that Romney's tax plan will not revive the economy. The National Journal stated that Romney's tax plan details favor the wealthy. FactCheck.org's article stated Romney's impossible tax promise stated experts say he can't cut rates without losing revenue or favoring the wealthy. The Christian Science Monitor stated that Mitt Romney's tax plan doesn't add up. The Tax Policy Center stated that, quote, all taxpayers making less than $200,000 would see their taxes go up at an average of $2,041. The magazine The Economist polled hundreds of professional and academic and business economists, and they stated, quote, by a large margin, they rate Obama's overall economic plan more highly than Mr. Romney's and credit him with a better grasp of economics and think more likely to appoint a good economic team. The unemployment just dropped down from 8.1 to 7.8%, which isn't great, but it's the lowest it's been in 44 months. Manufacturing is the highest it's been since 1997. A report was just released yesterday from the Commerce Department that the U.S. GDP is growing at a quickening pace with government and consumer spending, and that the economy is seriously picking up. So to me, I don't feel like I'm cherry picking with these studies. Why the hell are you voting for Mitt Romney?
No, well, those are all great studies, I'm sure. Basically, Romney's plan involves more numbers than just saying, hey, we're going to cut everybody's taxes from the ultra-rich to, the people making $1 in a year. But what everybody fails to understand is that in order to increase the amount of business being done, which typically means small business, and a small business is increasing their business, which actually typically means employing people, that generates tax revenue, right? So if you're working, Adam, you said what? We're at 7.8% unemployment.
Right.
We should, relatively speaking, we should always be around 5, right? I mean, that's 5% of people are always going to be. They're just not going to employ 5% of the people for various different reasons. That's just. I think we all could probably come to agreement on that. But I mean, if we're employing 3% more of those people, which means more income, tax income, does it make up for all those numbers that we're talking about? Maybe not. But I don't think people are talking about that enough. That aside, I would highly disagree that Obama has a better team of advisors than Mitt Romney ever would. But and we can debate why that would be. But I'll take somebody who has ran a business successfully multiple times. Pulled our Winter Olympics out of basically the ditch, and hire him over some lawyer, to be perfectly honest with you.
Anyone have any thoughts on that?
You mentioned the ditch, and it brings to mind for me an appearance by President Obama in Madison. It happened about 2 years back during the midterm elections. I covered it as a reporter for WTDY, and at the time, he made the remark that was very much re-quoted and ballyhooed by some on the other side, saying that the Republicans drove this car into the ditch and we're not just going to turn around and give them the keys back. And of course, in that midterm election, America very much handed the keys back to the Republicans. It was a round of crushing defeats for the Democrats at the time, none of which really changes the numbers. That when President Obama took office in January of 2009, unemployment was at 8.2% and rising. It rose and continued to rise through the first couple years of his term, topping out in the double digits before slowly grinding to a halt and then starting to go the other way. An economy is a vast, complicated thing. I'm certainly no economist, but every economist that I know says big changes take time. And if we've seen those numbers now come back down from the double digits and in fact surpass the unemployment rate where President Obama took office, I feel like you can at least point to that and say it appears to be working anyway. And given the current trend, the downward-facing trend, it could even continue as we go forward.
And I guess I would also ask, BJ, do you think that Mitt Romney is really a job creator? I mean, to me, Bain Capital was not about job creation. It was about, he was a profit creator. He was and by the way, I patent that term. Like, I haven't heard that term. I haven't stolen it from anyone. But he's a profit creator, and he would come in and, like, the stuff that's happening in Sensata now. The Bain Capital comes in, ships jobs to China, and fires people.
So, first of all, did President Obama inherit a terrible situation? I think any of us here are going to tell you that he didn't. It's not that he didn't inherit it, it's how he handled it. And, he created jobs. Well, it all depends on who you listen to, him or Mitt Romney. But jobs that he did either save or he did create. what I'm trying to say is we have had we've lost jobs. We've no doubt saved some jobs, and the reason and how we saved them was basically by spending a lot of money to save some jobs. And I think that's where people have a huge issue with it. It's not that we're not glad that nobody wants to be there, but it's how you create those jobs and how much money you spend to either save or create those jobs that people have an issue with President Obama. As far as Romney and the way he ran Bain, if you think that Romney was sitting there with a pen and deciding every little thing that happened at Bain, you're crazy. Did he have a say in what was going on there? Absolutely. We all know that if you have a 401k, you are in it for the money, right? And so his job is to make sure that his companies are profitable. And so, whether he had to cut jobs or jobs had to be cut where his companies were not making money, then that's what had to be done. Nobody likes that, but that's the corporate world, unfortunately. But you also can't run a business that doesn't have any money. So
now I would say one of the things you said was spending money, but really the deficit has stayed steady with Obama. It hasn't gone up. It has stayed steady. So my question would be, it's actually Bush's deficit was 5 times worse than Obama's.
You're talking about the deficit increase, the amount which
the amount that it stayed. Of course, he increased the deficit with the stimulus package, but I'm saying it ended up staying steady the whole time. Anyone?
Well, if you looked at a graph and decided, well, if you looked at Bush's last 4 years and Obama's last 4 years, ran a graph, I mean, yeah, you're right. The money would stay consistent on our deficit. You're absolutely correct. And then you would probably say, well, the biggest problem with our deficit is the Bush tax cuts, which is ultimately true, right? I mean, that's drove a lot of what our deficit is today, along with a couple wars and, ultimately the spending that Obama had to do, or, to keep us out of basically who knows what would have been the Depression. So, there's no easy answer. This has been a problem that has gone on for Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, that's true.
It really has to stop. And, speaking of budgets, we haven't even had one. So, we got a lot of work to do. And Obama just hasn't managed it in the correct way as far as the economy goes.
All right, Michael, what do you think?
You said about the capital being a profit creator, and it was a profit creator, and that's what he was. He was a problem solver. He went into companies that were having problems and fixed it in his way. And if it wasn't fixed, they destroyed the company and raided as much money as they could. What I'm worried about when I hear Romney is, are they come in and fix the problem, or are we going to write off that 1/3 of companies that Bain Capital basically raided, took everything out, left people hung and dry? That's what I'm concerned about with Mitt Romney. I hear talk about cutting taxes, increasing spending on the military, and how does that work? It doesn't. BJ admitted that the tax cuts under Bush are a big part of the problem. How are more tax cuts solve the problem? It's not. We need to cut spending, keep tax rates where they are. We need to put more money into consumers' hands so people can spend money to drive the economy. Profits aren't driving the economy. It's people having money that they can spend to purchase products is what's going to increase businesses. And this is not something I'm seeing from me. I'm hearing the same old tax cuts. 100% happy with what Obama has done, but there's a limit to what the president can do. in any president. And what I'd rather see a slow, steady increase like we've seen so far than booms and crashes that we've had in the past. I guess that's where I go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just noticed that there's an American flag hanging behind you. That's awesome.
Can I tell you about that flag?
What?
That's my son's flag that he received from troops in Iraq that he donated about $700 worth of items he raised for his 5th birthday.
Oh.
Sent overseas and they flew this flag at one of the forward air bases and sent it to him a few years ago.
That's awesome.
Since you have a flag, I need a flag too.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Okay, so Dusty, anything on your end that you wanted to talk about with us?
As far as the economy goes, we know that Mitt Romney is a businessman. We've got 4 years of looking at how President Obama has led the country, how he's dealt with the economy, how he stepped in, and there's very few people right now that will argue with you when you say that the president saved the American auto industry. There are people that'll argue about whether or not it should have been saved. But there's no denying the fact that he played a significant role, and his policies played a significant role in saving the American auto industry and thousands of jobs as a result. Certainly, nobody doubts Mitt Romney's ability to run a business. It raises the question of whether or not you should run a country like it's a business. Now, certainly, running a deficit year after year after year is no way to stay financially solvent. But I don't think that that is the end game here for President Obama. He's put forward plans that he says will scale things back as time goes on and as the economy begins to recover, and if he's able to pass these tax increases on the wealthiest Americans that he says will take care of that deficit. It's a plan that's in motion right now. Whether or not it continues going forward here, I think plays a lot into our nation's future.
Stacy?
Well, I think that one of the best things that whoever the future president is to improve our economy is to end the war-based economy that we are undergoing right now. I mean, we can't keep pouring money into the Middle East and thinking that trying to be the people to establish some kind of stability there is really helping. Among some of the things that President Obama inherited from President Bush were some really bad foreign policies, including the use of drone weaponry. Guantanamo still isn't really closed, even though he signed an executive order to do so. President Obama still says that he doesn't have Congress's back to really close Guantanamo. And of course, we're still really concerned about some other domestic issues about warrantless wiretapping and spying on innocent Americans and visitors to our country. And I think that the undercurrent of all of those really core civil liberties concerns is this war that continues in Afghanistan. I think that the ideal thing would be to bring those troops home, to stop pouring money into that country and try to do some investment here. Now, whether President Obama wins a re-election or whether it's Mitt Romney who wins, I think that's a really important thing for us to think about in terms of our own domestic security and our own domestic budget here in the United States.
Excellent. Now, BJ, I'm gonna pull a Bill O'Reilly here. I'm gonna let you have the last word because we kind of ganged up a little bit on you, and I felt bad about it. So go ahead, BJ. Why don't you have the last word?
No, so I will agree with Stacy. I mean, going to wars and not being able to fund them is just not the right thing to do. I mean, I don't know what happened to the war tax, but that's what we actually used to do when we go to war. And I strongly think that's something that we should implement if we go to war here forward. I mean, it's just, going to war, not being able to pay for it, it's not really a thing to do. It looks really bad to have China support our wars.
Yeah.
I think everybody can agree
Yes.
on that.
Yes.
Nobody wants to raise taxes, right? But we have to pay for them. That's my last rant. I mean, the economy is what it is. Did Obama save the auto industry? He absolutely did. I don't think I can dispute that fact. But it's the fact that the taxpayer still does own those guys, and I'd really like us to see us not own him, not own the auto manufacturers anymore. Let's figure out a strategic way to get that out of the government's hands. I don't think anybody really wants to be owning GM or Dodge. So that's it.
All right. Well, that is our first topic. So that's good. We're done with our first topic, and that means I'm going to do this.
There's not actually a fire.
There's now a fire. Oh shit! Did I just? Oh, okay.